arrived here, please make sure you go into our town office and check out the boards and stuff. If you're not a member of the Pownell Historical Society, we encourage you to join. The membership is very reasonable. And we'd like the donations as well because it did cost a lot of money to put this on. So any donations you have, you can make them inside here. Also, please visit the church. That's one of the original churches, not that building, but where it stands. And it's a beautiful building. And the reenactment will take place shortly. And we're all going to gather up on the lawn in front of the church, okay? So thank you very much, and enjoy the day.
Grandfathers to start?
Oh, I already played it.
You want to make an announcement?
No, but you were doing that once, so I thought it'd be nice to have some here.
The plan was to wait till the reenact, but is there a different, what, are you under some kind
The
of...
two fiddles, that'd be great. Two fiddles. Nobody knows two fiddles.
Okay, we can, I mean, we can give this to someone else. I think you'll find it pretty interesting, but...
Everyone! Get over here! Gather round! Gather round! Everybody! Gather round! I have something I need to say! Please, everyone! Everyone! My name is Josiah Dunning. I live here in Pownell, just like all of you. And I've come here and I've gathered you all here to tell you something important. We need to rally together with Ethan Allen and his forces, and we need to go and take Fort Ticonderoga now.
Why? A British fort?
Yes. It is lightly guarded. The spies have informed us that it is lightly guarded, and they have cannons. They have ammunition. They have rations. This is our time. in this point in history.
Our fight is with the king.
No! Or yes, our fight is with the king.
Our fight is with the king.
We need to take down this king and his tyranny.
With the rest of the colonies, we have to fight.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm with you.
Come on, gather around. The Green
not
Mountain Boys
about the
are
Brits
coming
anymore.
together.
Yeah, but
And
we're
we
talking
need to
about
take
the
this
British,
fort.
folks. We're just simple farmers here.
We can
The colonies are under threat.
England.
No, we are all together as a county, as an area, as a people. I'm a farmer. My farm is down yonder. I want to be able to see that farm
I say
in
we
5
fight.
years.
I'm worried about it.
Who's going to do the planting, Josiah? Who's going to do the planting?
We'll
You gonna
figure
put
it
the
out.
land
We
in
need
a
to
fort?
rally and dig together now. We have no time to lose. In 250 years from now, on this day, the people will be celebrating what we did here today.
Yeah, but Samuel Wright has a point. It's planting time. All the men are going to go off to fight. Who's left? Who's left? Who's going to plant the crop?
The young men, the women, the
Figure
children.
it out, the women, the young men. We have what we need. We don't have any time to lose.
All this talk of war is crazy.
Young sir, I hope you live to see your old age.
I do too. And I want to see an old age of prosperous, of amazing, this Pownell area that we live in. A free man!
Lost my husband a year ago to the Shakes. Who's gonna do my planting? Who's gonna take care of my family if you take my son?
There'll be no country left as there's a monarchy.
Yeah!
You young men don't know war. You hear the fifes and drums and go running. You are gonna see death, and there will
Look
be
at what they
nothing
did at the Boston Massacre. Look at what we did in Lexington and Concord. We can beat them.
Yes, we can.
You're a fool. You're gonna be tarred and feathered when you're caught.
Yeah, young men are
They'll die for
hot-blooded.
this cause.
We've been around. We know what war is. It's not fun. Come on now. I don't like the British any more than you do, but we're just simple poor farmers here.
Why be afraid? We can make a change. We can start this revolution.
Look in the distance. Who are these people?
Who is this coming in?
Wait,
Maybe they've come to join us.
are those the
Connecticut?
Connecticut forces? People! They've come to join us! The cause and the time is now!
All right, now I'm feeling better. The troops from Connecticut.
The troops are here! Who's with me? Rally together! We need to beat the king! We need to beat Britain!
All right, I'm feeling better.
We join you.
Look at the forces and the armies we have. We are one of the people who will push this in history. We will be the ones to motivate the future of this battle.
Green Mountain Boys.
Green Mountain Boys!
Green Mountain Boys!
Take down Massachusetts to fight along with us.
Yes!
Josiah, I am my colleague, Peter, and my husband, Johann Fury. We just recently lost our son. God gave us 3 sons, and now we have 2. And now we still are mourning him. And now you're asking us to give another son who in a few years might be dead on a battlefield.
Yeah.
We're not ready. We're not ready to
good
mourn
point.
another son. We're not ready.
I promise. I'm telling you now. Please don't think about the death. Don't think about the possible consequences. Think about the possible
victory.
future we could have. Think of what Pownell will push here today.
This ain't about the grants. It's about independence.
Yeah!
The freedom of our sons.
Independence.
All right.
This will
Well,
be
folks,
to no good service.
I'm going to sort of thank everybody for coming to the reenactment. Well done. We just wanted to sort of dramatize a little bit what we were trying to show on the slideshow and show in our brochures. And 250 years ago today, troops from Massachusetts and Connecticut marched through Pownell on their way to meet up with the Green Mountain Boys in Bennington and beyond, and then together march up to Fort Ticonderoga. This is a couple weeks after Lexington and Concord, and the country, was in a an uproar at what happened down there. But here in Pownell, we were barely getting our roots down, right? We only started as a town 1760. So it was hard work getting these farms going, and now the call to take our sons, our husbands, up to fight what we thought was a British fort. Turns out it wasn't too heavily guarded, and it wasn't much of a fight. But you can imagine what the people of Pownell thought in them days, right? It was a big decision, so that's what we tried to do. So now we're gonna, the town of Pownell has put together a special Freedom and Unity flag to commemorate this moment. I wanted Walt to say a couple words, then I'll read a part of the legislature's resolution, not the whole thing, and then we'll have the musket ballot.
In the 1700s, of course, there was no radio, there was no television, no cell phones. So how did the news get around? Well, it was brought to the back country on the stage lines as newspapers came from the big cities and discussed in taverns. Local communities would have liberty poles, which could be a tree or a post, where notices were posted to let the communities know what was going on. This included notices about what was happening in Lexington and Concord. I am John Ten Eyck, a damn Dutch farmer from Pownell. I am a veteran of the French and Indian Wars. I was with colonial militias under Haviland at Crown Point. We fought shoulder to shoulder with British regulars and Rogers Rangers up the Richelieu at Isle de New on our way to victory at Montreal that ended the French and Indian War. Woo! My brothers, I tell you from my eyes and my heart, war is not a good thing. Death on the battlefield is not glorious. Consider well the inflammatory rhetoric you have heard here today. Choose wisely. I am much distressed at the slander against our good King George. He be a farmer. He be a farmer as we be. He understands well our plight here. Over 150 years ago, I received lands and we became farmers of our own lands in New Netherlands, where we had been tenant farmers under New Netherlands, sending crops back to the Dutch West India Company. But in 1668, when the British took over from Peter Stuyvesant, we received our lands from the King of England. That is why I am loyal to the King. But please consider well what things you do and what things you do and what you say in your future course of action. I have two proclamations to post for a Liberty pole. Wanted, private mail courier between Shaftesbury and Boston monthly. Must have reliable horse. Board, fair wages, and powder. Apply in person with horse to Jonas or David Galusha, Galusha Tavern, Shaftesbury.
Was that a real advertisement? Well, that was a real advertisement.
And the other notice, Committee of Safety formed, second Tuesday, 3 p.m. monthly. Galusha Tavern, Shaftesbury. Apply in person to Ira Allen, Joseph Galusha, David Galusha et al. Ale and island rum served. I thank you.
All right. Thank you, Walt. I just wanted to read just a couple paragraphs real quick. So both houses of the Vermont legislature passed a resolution, and just a bit of it. Whereas in May 2025, Vermonters are commemorating the early role of the gallant and heroic men of the New Hampshire Grants, that's what we were called then, there was no Vermont yet, in the fight for American independence, the prelude to Vermont's admission as our nation's 14th state. And whereas in Bennington County, the commemoration of the expedition to Ticonderoga, Ethan Allen, the Green Mountain Boys, and America's first victory includes public events celebrating these brave deeds of 1775. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and the House of Representatives that in the General Assembly commemorates the 250th anniversary of Ethan Allen's planning in Bennington in 1775 of the successful Vermont initiation of the American War of Independence and the associated expedition to Ticonderoga. All right, we've decided to fight. The Green Mountain Boys will assemble over on yonder green pasture.
Company, rest your firelocks. Company, prime and load position. Handle cartridges. Load pans. Cast about. Load flintlocks. Shoulder when ready. Company, poise firelocks. Company, make ready. Full cock, hammer stalls off. Present, elevate, and fire. Whoa! Time to load position.
Mix them all together? Great. I don't think they're both going to be big enough.
There's this one that has the cornbread. I can take the bread out, put it on a plate.
I've looked carefully, I've timed myself. It actually adds an average of 2 seconds to your loading time. Do not ask me why. I can't explain it. So prime, shut, load, recover. Okay, it will speed your time up.
That's why, because you looked at the ground, you took it right out of the can, and it cost you a ton.
Okay, but that's what happens. Okay, and it's a tiny thing. It's never been written in a drill manual. I've never seen anything with it, but it makes a difference when you're under pressure.
For those of you that are cocked, half cock or full cock, please ease your springs. I don't know how we got there, but let's recover that. Another piece with that positioning of the musket in the half cock position. That buttstock is up in your armpit, nice and high. It's not down here at your hip. It's nice and high. You don't have to think about where that pan is. It's right here. Just dump it in, cast about, do your thing. Mr. Bailey has the fastest priming that I've ever seen in my life. I'm going to pick his brain more today about how he does that so that we can all try to emulate that, but it's crazy. Huh? All right, everybody ready? At your own pace, as fast as you can, going through your priming, loading, and firing sequences. Go. Bang, bang. As many as you can. Bang, bang. Bang.
What are you cooking?
Lunch.
Lunch.
Noonings. Yeah, so we have in this kettle a stew that's made with a little bit of fresh pork, ham, some pork smoked shoulders from last year, some bacon, some reconstituted mushrooms, and sauerkraut. It's a Bigos stew. You may have heard of it, hunter stew. And we're cooking potatoes. The stew will go over the potatoes. And then we're going to cook up some foraged early greens. We've got ramps and fiddleheads and baby asparagus and all that stuff. And reconstituted mushrooms from last year again. And then, yeah, that's what we're doing.
I haven't gotten out foraging this year yet. I don't know if it's too late for fiddleheads or right.
Somebody was saying down here they've peaked, but I'm up in Shrewsbury.
Oh yeah.
And they're hitting now.
Yep.
On the command to take care, on the command disperse, we will disperse and conduct nooning. Take care to disperse. Disperse.
So they're mostly brown besses, pretty much all. There might be one fowler in there. Yeah, that's a fowler on the end. Most are brown besses.
We're going to Castleton next Friday.
We live in Shrewsbury, so we're north about an hour. Okay, we're up near Roma. Bluebeard or black?
Okay, everyone, if you could give your attention front and center, I'm going to hand the microphone over to John Van Eyck. Ten Eyck, excuse me. John Ten Eyck, excuse me. And he's going to tell us something about our Liberty Pole. Here, John.
Willkommen. Guten Tag. Welcome, friends. Welcome, Herren. Welcome, Fraus. Welcome, Kinders. In the 1700s, news traveled slow in the backcountry. Trees near a tavern or a town hall or a post would be erected as a community bulletin board where locals could post notices. John Ten Eyck raising a barn on the 25th, bring your family, refreshments provided. Or I have calves for sale, see me at my farm. Or I'm in need of a wheelwright, or I'm in need of a servant girl. And these notices would be periodically posted. After Lexington and Concord, and even before, often political items would be posted on these poles. And if you were in an area where there were British regulars, they would inspect the signs and tear them down. And if the signs reappeared, they'd cut down the liberty poles, and they would be re-erected, and the signs would persist. So we are here today to celebrate our liberty pole here in Shaftesbury. But I be John Ten Eyck. I am better known as that damn Dutch farmer from Pownell. I am older than most of you here. I am a veteran of the French and Indian Wars. I fought in a provincial militia under General Haviland at Crown Point, up the Richelieu, arm in arm with British regulars and Rogers Rangers at Isle de New, on our way to victory at Montreal, which ended the French and Indian Wars. I tell you, my brothers, from my own eyes and my own heart, war is never a good thing. War is not good. Death on the battlefield is not glorious. I have heard much inflammatory rhetoric here these last days after Lexington and Concord skirmishes. Please consider well your decisions as we go forward with today's troubles. I am greatly distressed at the libel I hear against our good King George. King George be a farmer as we are. He knows our plight well here. He will take care of us. I am convinced. I have 2 notices here today that I am posting for the Shaftesbury Committee of Safety.
I'd rather have a quick death on the battlefield than a slow death by 1,000 acts of tyranny. Hear, hear. Down with the tyrant.
You are young, sir. I hope you live to your old age. May God so grant it. Notice, Committee of Safety formed, 2nd Tuesday, 3 p.m. monthly, Galusha Tavern, Shaftesbury. Apply in person to Ira Allen, Jonas Galusha, David Galusha et al. Ale and island rum served. Wanted, private mail courier between Shaftesbury and Boston monthly. Must have a reliable horse. Board, fair wage, and powder. Apply in person with horse to Jonas or David Galusha, Galusha Tavern, Shaftesbury. Thank you, my brothers. Be well, live long.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir, you may.
John Ten Eyck is a good neighbor and a good friend, but John, I fear you have underestimated this latest struggle. You see, the first systematic and bloody attempt at Lexington and Concord to enslave America has thoroughly electrified my mind, and I am fully determined to take part with my country. To liberty, and those with the spirit to assert it. Hip, hip, huzzah! Hip, hip, huzzah!
Hip, hip,
Huzzah! You are well spoken, sir, and I appreciate your point of view. I am not one to make war anymore.
Your good friend, John Tunnick.
As we continue our ceremony, and I try to futz around with this equipment, I'd like to ask, how many of you can name a favorite teacher? How many of you had a teacher that you know? You don't have to name them, but just raise your hand. If you have a favorite teacher in mind, raise your hand. All right. How many of you, your favorite teacher was a history teacher? All right, yeah, I thought among this crowd that might be the case. I had a favorite teacher, Mr. Dolly, 7th grade. And Mr. Dolly, while his classes, I remember them distinctly. I remember none of the names and none of the dates. But the neat thing that Mr. Dolly did was he taught the spirit of America. And he really focused on the revolutionary spirit of America, the spirit of 1776. Well, Mr. Dolly is the reason that I love American history. He's also the reason why I became a U.S. history teacher myself. And for that matter, he's the reason I'm standing here right now. Anyhow, while I was teaching, I had 180 days, roughly, to give to my students what Mr. Dolly gave me. And I wasn't as good at it as he was, but it was tough. But and here I only have a couple minutes, so I'm thinking, what is the quickest and easiest thing I can do to impart some of the spirit of 1776? And it's no surprise. Oh wait, one moment. I have some song sheets. That's not yet. That I'll hand to you, and you can circulate these amongst yourselves. Would anyone take the stack? And who's ever is interested, well, I tell you what, I'll leave them right. All right. I'll just, right. We'll put them right on the bale there. Now the thing about Yankee Doodle is there are so many different verses. You can probably find 100 of them if you look hard. So I chose 5 or 6 that I thought would be the most relevant to our celebration today. So here we go. Yankee Doodle went to town a-riding on a pony, stuck a feather in his cap and called it macaroni. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. Father and I went down to camp, along with Captain Gooding, and there we saw the men and boys as thick as hasty pudding. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. And there we saw 1,000 men, as rich as Squire David, and what they wasted every day, I wish it could be saved. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. All right, we'll cut it off there. Seeing as my music is cut off. There we go.
My name's Sean Harrington. I am the curator of the Manchester Historical Society. I'm a trustee here at Delwood Cemetery, and I'm also a card-carrying member of the Vermont Sons of the American Revolution. So my patriot's buried up in Brandon, and it's really, really quite wonderful to be here. I mean, not only are we here, you know, amongst the stones where there are a lot of Revolutionary veterans, but we're here with 2 who we're gonna focus on particularly this morning. And that is General Christopher Roberts, who's right here at my left, and his father, John Roberts, who's over here near the canopy. So John came here, he was one of the first settlers here in Manchester. He wasn't an original grantee, but he did come here early on. And he came here with his whole family. And when the call went out to go to Ticonderoga, John brought his 5 sons with him. Christopher is purported to be the 3rd man into the fort.
There's been a number of eyewitnesses accounts that actually, you could probably say that he indeed was the third man into the fort. So Christopher, I mean, not only did they participate in the taking of Ticonderoga, Christopher was also engaged in the battles of Bennington, the Battle of Hubbardton. In Bennington, he actually was tasked with bringing the women and children down to Massachusetts because he didn't really know exactly how far this was going to go. Peter Roberts, one of the other brothers who settled in Dorset, who was at Ticonderoga, marched up to Canada under Warner in 1775. He also participated in the battles of Hubbardton, Bennington, and Saratoga. Benjamin Roberts, after Ticonderoga, went up to Canada as well, and he also participated in the battles of Hubbardton and Bennington. John Roberts Jr., he was also at the battles of Hubbardton and Bennington. Are you seeing a pattern here? Why they were called the Fighting Roberts family? William Roberts, or Bill Roberts, he also settled in Dorset, so we had two Roberts boys who actually ended up settling in Dorset. Did they pick him up here in Manchester? I don't know. Did they pick them up while they were going to Dorset? We're not really sure. Nobody posted it on Facebook back then, so we're not really sure exactly how they did it. They were going up somewhat incognito in smaller groups so as not to draw any attention. So how they all where they met up and how they met up, it's a little bit of a mystery. I suppose I could tell you a story and there's no way to verify it, so you can't say I'm a liar, but we try to tell some of the truth. Bill was in Dorset. He also participated in the battles of Bennington and Hubbardton. I'm going to flip my page because I don't want to miss anything. John, the father, not only did he go to Ticonderoga, but he also was part of General Montgomery's Montreal campaign, and records show he was taken prisoner, and he was later pardoned and released by Governor General Guy Carleton. So he was exchanged. And do you know anything about that, Colonel Allen?
Is that when I was captured?
I mean, it seemed like a good idea at the time, right?
It was a great idea. Half of my forces never arrived, or it would have worked.
You know? It's like Mike Tyson says, you know, to bring it to the modern day. Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. So, I mean, we're incredibly fortunate, you know, here at Dellwood. So Dellwood, even though it was founded in 1820, so how Dellwood came to be, so the original burying grounds were right across from where the Marsh Tavern is today, where the courthouse is. And that was working out well until right around the War of 1812, when the militia was using the cemetery, the burying grounds, as a parade ground, which was upsetting people. So they decided they were going to relocate the cemetery. So they brought everybody down here. Well, almost everybody. They're all stones down here and probably what they could, but you know, gravestones were expensive then as they are now. So not everybody made the trip, and as late as the 1970s when they were doing work on drainage around the courthouse, they still found some remnants of the members who didn't quite make it all the way down here. One of the patriots says, you look around here, we don't have the flags up yet. Our superintendent, Kurt Boucher, who's phenomenal. You know, we often say, you know, we have a board of trustees, but Kurt runs the cemetery. This has been part of his life. He's been here 28 years. And so Kurt's the one. It used to be he had all the scouts and VFW, the American Legion. They would come here and the auxiliaries would come and help him put out flags. Now he does it all by himself. So he hits every single veteran's grave out here. So he hasn't put them out yet. They'll be out by Memorial Day. But around here you'll see a lot of these markers for the Ormsby chapter of the DAR. So there's another one back there, Captain Samuel Walker. Captain Samuel Walker came here in the waning days of the Revolution, and it's interesting because he came here and he actually had a black hand servant. And the reason why I know that is because I went through the Congregational Church records, and in the original burying grounds, there was a Negro who was owned by Captain Samuel Walker. Lived to be 78 years old. He doesn't have a marker, so I don't know if he was one of the fellows that they dug up in the 1970s, but as far as I know, I wasn't able to find it. One of the few instances where I found a record of an African American in Manchester that early on. But the Ormsby chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution came from Mercy Ormsby, who was the daughter of Gideon Ormsby. Gideon is buried right over here. he has a marker. He has more of a contemporary stone because his original stone, which we have at the Manchester Historical Society, had deteriorated as such where it actually tipped over and the acid rain had almost melted it. That was one of the ways they knew acid rain was becoming such a problem in the 1970s was all those national cemeteries, they were made out of white marble. A lot of the marble from here, from Dorset. And the acid started eating away at all these national monuments, all these national cemeteries. They almost started melting. And as you look around the cemetery and see some of the older ones, or if you're around in New England, you'll notice a lot of the older stones, it almost looks like they're melting. And that's in part due to age as well as the acid rain. So Gideon's stone was actually replaced. So even though he's been there a long time, he does have a new stone. Gideon's story, he wasn't a Green Mountain boy, but he was considered one of our town forefathers. I think he held every position from moderator to, to surveyor, to he participated in the Constitution conventions. He was up at Cephas Kent Tavern and also in Windsor. But one of the interesting stories about Major Ormsby is his son just shows you how deep the divisions went, whether we should even be taking on this cause of becoming independent or should we stay loyal to the crown. And, you know, it gets a little complicated further down, but Ormsby was away. So some Tories showed up at his house because they were going to teach him a lesson. Well, he wasn't there. So they took his young son, Daniel, and they kidnapped him. Well, Mercy raised the alarm that her son had been captured. Gideon was away. So a group of patriots came together and they tracked him down. Daniel was smart enough to actually mark his trail because, you know, all these guys, I mean, they were militia, but they were hunters, they were farmers, and they also were able to track. You know, they were all pretty good trackers. So Daniel was smart enough to mark his trail as they were taking him up. He ended up in Rupert. And the Tories put him in a red coat, you know, a British red coat. And when they came up, they raised the rifle. Somebody was going to actually fire upon them because the Tories had started scattering because they knew they were there. And Daniel raised his hand and said, "Don't shoot." So luckily, he wasn't killed by friendly fire, and he was brought back to Manchester and reunited by his family. And there were instances like that happened because, you know, within, you know, these little communities of Sunderland, Arlington, Manchester, Dorset, you know, there were people who were still loyal to the crown. And, you know, a lot of them, eventually some of them had their lands confiscated. A lot of them joined up with the British or retreated to Canada. But some of them did stay. And sometimes part of the family stayed and part of the families left. You know, the French family is a great example of that. There's a few Frenches that are buried in here. And I'll talk a little bit when we're up at the equinox about that. But some of the families, they were split in half. Almost like, you know, a foreshadowing of the Civil War. So there's a ton of history. We're going to have a great gathering up at the hotel in about 20 minutes. Does anybody have any questions?
Did all the Roberts survive the war?
All the Roberts survived the war. As a matter of fact, Christopher's son Benjamin rose to the rank of a brigadier general in the militia. His son Benjamin Roberts is actually buried right over there, right on the other side. I think that's a Toyota Camry. He's got a large stone with a sword. He actually was a Civil War general, a little bit marred in controversy. He participated in the Second Battle of Bull Run, got involved with some court-martial affairs and kind of got sent out west to fight the natives for a while, but was brought back here and is buried. He was originally buried in D.C. and they reinterred him up here in the 1870s. And the Roberts homestead, which is at the corner of North Road and Main Street, is still there, and that's where Martin Roberts, Christopher Roberts' son, is buried there. There's one of two small family cemeteries that are in Manchester. So what I want to do, just because it's starting to rain a little bit, we were going to do a musket salute, and before it rains too much, I thought perhaps we could get a couple of our boys here to do a salute. Maybe we could get Kurt. And then I'll come back and do a few more questions.
Go!
over your firelocks. Company, take care. Poise firelocks. Company, prime and load position. Half cock. Handle cartridges. Prime pan. Close pans when ready. Cast about, load musket. Poise when ready. Make ready. Full cop. Hammer stalls off. Present. Fire.
So I just got a grab. And he's actually going to read. So we actually have a copy of the actual resolution here. Would you like a microphone, Seth? Thank you for coming down. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thanks, everybody. And to all of you, I know all the work that this has taken. And I saw, and by the way, these guys were all in the State House. How long was that just last week?
Yeah, it seems like 250 years ago.
So, Executive Department. Whereas, in response to the rebellious Boston Tea Party in mid-December 1773, trade throughout New England was deliberately hindered by the British naval blockade of Boston Harbor, and whereas the battles of Lexington and Concord, fought on April 19, 1775, ignited the long conflict between rebellious residents of the American colonies and the government of the British Kingdom, and whereas some New England citizens appreciated that if artillery could be seized and then moved from the British forts on Lake Champlain to Boston, it could force an end to the oppressive blockade of Boston Harbor, and whereas during the 1770s, the volunteer militia of the New Hampshire Grants, living north of the province of Massachusetts in the frontier areas in between the Connecticut River and Lake Champlain, was known as the Green Mountain Boys, and whereas the Green Mountain Boys were located within striking distance of two artillery-rich British forts, Crown Point and Ticonderoga, both perched on the west shore of Lake Champlain, and whereas in early May 1775, Ethan Allen of Bennington met with Colonel Mott of Connecticut with the purpose of engaging him and the Green Mountain Boys to form an expedition to capture the forts at Crown Point and Ticonderoga, and whereas Ethan Allen directed the Green Mountain Boys to gather at Castleton, where plans to capture British forts were set in motion, and whereas a council of war in Castleton dispatched forces to secure Skanesboro and called men from Water Creek to join at Hans Cove, and whereas the Green Mountain Boys' bold action led to the capture of Forts Ticonderoga and Crown Point, the first major patriot victories of the Revolution, and whereas the seized cannons were hauled to Boston by Henry Knox and his team, helping to lift the British blockade, and whereas these achievements established the Green Mountain Boys' legendary role in securing American independence, and whereas Vermonters and Americans are now marking the 250th anniversary of the Revolutionary War, honoring the courage of the men of the New Hampshire Grants, and whereas Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys Week is celebrated starting May 2nd in Bennington County and commemorated in the town of Castleton on May 9th, recalling past celebrations of 1925 and 1975. Now, therefore, I, Philip E. Scott, Governor, hereby proclaim May 2nd through 9th, 2025, as Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys Week in Vermont, given under my hand in the Great Seal of the State of Vermont on this first day of May, AD 2025.
Fireworks.
So cute.
Revolutionary War Memorial, erected in Paulet on July 4th, 1917, less than 3 months after entering World War I. In grateful recollections, we gather here today to honor local soldiers this celebration day. They helped to win our freedom from an oppressor's throne, leaving their wives and dear ones in poverty alone. They went from all this region, they fought on land and sea. Their graves now don the hillside along the Meadowee. Daughters found their scattered graves and with reverent hands placed a flag to wave above the men how saved our land. These gallant men, the price they paid, we cannot even know. So poorly clad their footprints made were crimson in the snow. And yet the family bade them go and gave no thought of fear. Again these soldiers called to save the country from a foe. Given as their mothers gave, these boys of long ago, the thoughts and prayers with them went to hearts held dear, until all are safe from enemies both far and near. Now I'd like to welcome the representatives from Dorset to step up and say a few words, and then we'll do a powder horn handoff.
Pray tell, what is this odd device I've been handed? Who has not heard about the events in Lexington and Concord just a few short weeks ago? Indeed, the shot heard round the world. Which begs the question, what comes next? And what comes next is the realization that in order for us to be victorious in this time, in this war, in this new looming trial for our country, we must secure cannon in order to succor our friends in Boston. We need to drive those British out. Fortunately, John Brown has alerted us to a possible solution to that. I am Noah Phelps, and along with Edward Mott, we approached the legislature in Connecticut just this past Monday on April 28th, excuse me. That is where we were allocated 300 pounds of hard cash to finance an expedition to capture Ticonderoga. To commemorate this event, we have with us a ceremonial powder horn, the expedition to Ticonderoga, upon which we have inscribed a plan of the map of the fort, as well as the names of the towns through which we have literally carried this, starting last Monday to today. However, we did make an important stop in Bennington, where we met none other than Ethan Allen. Tell me, Ethan, what, right? Give it up for Ethan Allen. Tell me, Ethan, what were your thoughts upon hearing about Lexington and Concord?
Gladly. The first systematic and bloody attempt at Lexington and Concord to enslave America thoroughly electrified my mind and fully determined me to take part with my country. To liberty and those with the spirit to assert it. Hip hip! Huzzah! Hip hip! Huzzah! Hip hip! Huzzah!
Thank you, Ethan. He is rarely at a loss for words. Indeed, in Bennington, along with Ed Mott, a bold plan was hatched. And in Bennington, after that initial meeting where he has enlisted the Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys, we have traveled northwards. We have traveled through the towns of Shaftesbury, of Arlington, of Sunderland, Manchester, and Dorset, till we come to you here today, now, 250 years to the day, almost exactly, from when we came all those years ago. Proudly carrying the ceremonial horn, we now are excited to pass it off to a representative right here in Paulet. To whom do I have the honor of giving it?
Platt Herrick, a descendant of Samuel Herrick of the Herrick Rangers and Green Mountain Boys, will accept the ceremonial powder horn.
Sir, it is my pleasure and honor to present you today with this ceremonial horn. I understand you will only have it a brief time, but for that time you have it, please accept this with our gracious thanks. Thank you.
Come on, get it, yeah. Let's get some. We're on the same team, man. Connecticut.
It's the island.